Welcome to Talk Tactic. Today we're going to be doing a review on the Justice League. I hope I can make my voice last all the way to the end of this movie.
That's pretty good, man.
Pretty decent.
Yeah.
What do you think about Batman, the Ben Affleck Batman voice versus the...
I liked it a lot better because when he didn't have to like make that voice, it was just like digitized versus him trying to be like, "Hey, you criminal will fear me. I'm the Dark Avenger." Like,
Yeah.
what's his name? What was the actor?
Was it, I don't know, I'm thinking Christopher Nolan, but that's the
No,
director.
that's the director.
That's the director. Welcome to Talk Tactic, where we know all the actors and characters.
Right. In-depth review.
In-depth review.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're talking about Justice League. What were your thoughts? What were some of your thoughts about Justice League?
I thought that it was a very fun movie. And I wasn't expecting it to be as fun as it was.
I wasn't either, and I was surprised at how they handled the Superman resurrection.
Oh man, yeah.
Really
okay,
surprised
so
about
spoilers. Anyways, it's not a real spoiler because they kind of show it in the commercials.
Well, first of all, if you look at the cast, it says Henry Cavill, starring Henry Cavill.
Right.
Right.
So you know he's gonna be in there.
Yeah, so you know he'll be in there.
Or at least you don't know if it's like just a flashback or something, but
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty.
okay. So all right. So first, let me just tell you overall what I thought of the movie. I thought it was a fun movie. Like if I had a choice to bring a child to see either like Thor Ragnarok or the Justice League, I would definitely pick Justice League because it was much more appropriate for children than it would be for taking them to see something like Thor Ragnarok, which there was a lot more innuendo and sort of adult themes within the whole context of that movie.
Oh, and this is kind of off of that whole thing, or actually, it's kind of related to the thing about innuendos that you said.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this one girl who was with us. The first thing she said about that movie was, "Superman's not wearing his underwear."
Right.
That's confirmation right there. It's
Yeah.
definitely more distracting to not have the underwear.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So we're gonna get back to our.
But that's
review.
just like a very
That's just like a little,
small.
and it ties into the innuendo thing that you were saying.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's a good
yeah.
time to bring that up.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
good time. But yeah, I definitely would take kids to see Justice League, and I probably, unless they were like 14 or 15, I probably wouldn't take them to see Thor Ragnarok. That's just my personal opinion. I'm kind of conservative like that.
So what did you think about Wonder Woman in the movie Wonder Woman that we just finished talking about, and the Wonder Woman in this movie Justice League? What did you think about her character development? What did you think about how she relates to Steve versus Batman and Superman and all the other...
Okay, so I would say the strength of that is that they didn't make her into a new person.
Right.
There was some consistency with her character, and that's probably mostly due to Gal Gadot, the way she imagines the character and the way she acts that character out. So there was definitely some dialogue of Wonder Woman that was much more masculine in this versus the her in the Wonder Woman movie. But I think it's Gal
That's
Gadot's
true.
performance.
But also, in this movie, she's basically found her place as a superhero.
Yeah, she's
In
a
the first
full-fledged
movie,
superhero.
she is very much searching for... She's very much... It's the hero's journey type of story. In this place, she's established already as a superhero.
Right.
So there's a big difference there.
Yeah, there is a very big difference. But I like the way they treated her character.
Yeah.
They did a great job with that. So, what else?
Okay, so in the movie, Batman is searching for a team to put together. He goes to see Aquaman. He goes to see the Flash, and Wonder Woman is also searching
She's
for a
helping.
team.
She's helping Batman.
She's helping Batman.
And she goes to find the cyborg.
She goes to find the cyborg, and so Batman and Batman and Wonder Woman are very much on the same page together in this movie, and I really enjoy that because in the first movie, and we talked about this extensively about Steve and his dealing with her and how that didn't work out, but I really like the sort of harmony that Batman and Wonder Woman have working together.
Right.
And in fact, Batman is basically the first person that Wonder Woman goes to. There's a part where she comes in and he's like, I paid for $15 million.
I paid for $15 million security when I could have just bought a cough drop.
And then she's like, but she's there. And the reason she's there is because Batman is the first man that she goes to. And just that dynamic that Batman would be the first man that Wonder Woman goes to speaks that just that fact alone speaks volumes about Batman and his masculinity and how he's the first person that she goes to, and she, they work together. They're working together and they're attempting to build the Justice League.
Right.
So when it comes to a point where they have all these battles and Batman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Flash are not strong enough all together, when out of desperation it seems like Batman has this idea basically that we're going to revive Superman.
And you know what I liked? I liked that Wonder Woman opposed that idea.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for Wonder Woman's character to oppose that idea because
Her dealing with the god of death.
Well, not only that, but she's the feminine. She's the only feminine, only representative of the feminine.
Right.
And that is about nature and beauty and what's natural. And what Batman's suggesting is unnatural.
Right.
And is the opposite of that.
Right.
And actually, he's the good character to select to pick that because he represents in a way the dark side of humanity.
Yeah.
And I like the way he said science.
Right.
Science
and
is
technology.
to push the boundaries to see what we can do, right?
Right.
And that's also part of like this dark way of looking spiritual, right? Like there's like no
consideration for what are the consequences of bringing somebody back to life, especially Superman.
right.
Which, when he does come back to life, you hear the dun 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 dun, and then it's like dun dun dun, and then it's like a close up on his eye, and he's like
Evil.
does the twitch, the
Yeah.
eye twitch or whatever, and
Yeah.
then Wonder Woman's like,
Not good.
oh, not good.
Yeah, so this is a cool thing because Johnny has a very good musical background, and so he kind of picks up on these kinds of things too. I was with a friend in Baltimore, not a friend,
Not a friend. Scratch that.
not a friend in Baltimore, and she was telling me like how she had this musical background, and how she can always hear when people are off key, off note. And I'm listening, and I'm like, that sounds perfectly in tune to me, man. That sounds beautiful.
You're saying you might have completely missed that moment where the evil Superman theme comes in. You might have been like wipe away sentimental tear. Oh, Superman's back.
Yeah.
And then when that destruction started happening, you're like,
Why?
Why? What's wrong?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah,
Completely taken by surprise.
I missed the musical hint there, man. I missed that. So that's
Okay.
just I wasn't raised with music.
So yeah, I like the way that in this movie they brought Superman back, and I like the way he handled Batman after that, and I like the way that they brought him back, and him having this side of not knowing what was happening to him, and this sort of evil side coming out, and how they brought him back to his humanity side with Lois Lane. I really liked that. That was a
Right.
good moment.
Yeah, so and I like the way they started the movie off because it's immediately asking the audience to suspend their disbelief because
Right.
Batman is fighting off some like parademon, and so they're like saying this is this kind of movie.
This is where this movie is going.
Yeah.
Accept it already.
Accept it right from the
Yeah.
start, which I really appreciated that because then it would have made that scene a lot harder for me to take. Man.
Right.
There would have been a lot of stuff like say when the Steppenwolf character, the main villain, his name is Steppenwolf, and he's just kind of like this mythical ogre-like creature, and it would have been very hard for me to take him in.
He looks
too.
really similar to the Wonder Woman villain in the first movie.
Yeah.
Harris.
And I want to say, like, I'm not very critical on visual effects. I thought the visual effects were good, but I know there's going to be a lot of reviewers and stuff that are going to be like, the visual effects were horrible. I could totally tell that it was not a real person.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be that.
But
I'm more interested in the plot
And the story.
the story and the character motivations, because special effects are always changing.
Right.
So
And
if the story's strong and solid and the characters have good motivation, then
that's what's
great.
the most important part. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, visual effects can be distracting, but it's up to the viewer to be like, you know what, I'm here to participate in the experience. So all you other reviewers, poo poo on you, poo poo.
I'm going to tell you one thing I really liked about this movie.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so when they brought back Superman, they gave us this sense of gratification where Superman gets justice, where he gets to fight all these other superheroes, particularly Batman, and he gets to get some revenge in that moment. And when Wonder Woman comes against him, Wonder Woman's not able to stop him. You see what I mean? Like when she uses the lasso, I think he may be like the first one who pulls the lasso, like pulls her with the lasso, and
And they
The
very
way
much
he-
distinguish his power because he's only using one hand against her.
right,
And there's like in contrast to her and Aquaman, they seem to have a very similar power set.
right. So I was concerned with how they were going to bring back Superman, and I was concerned that this was how it would turn out. They would bring back Superman, and then he would fight them, and then their four powers together, they would overpower him. And then out of desperation, because he didn't have a choice, then he would just give up and be on their side. And like that was a really big concern for me, because I'm really glad they didn't do it that way, because it needed it to be this way, where they can't force Superman to be on their side. And then what does bring Superman back
He's an
to
emotional
his
element,
humanity is an emotional sort of
anchoring.
appeal, and that is Lois Lane.
Yeah, Lois Lane.
I really like how they did that, and that was a big concern for me, because that would have been bad if they would have brought him back from the dead and then forced him to be on the Justice League.
Right.
I would not like that at all, and I was concerned about that because I'm a very big Superman fan,
Right.
and I was concerned that they were going to do something like that, or they could do something like that. Now you brought up, what you had something to say about that.
Yeah, so I was really worried about this element of bringing Superman back. One, I didn't think that Superman needed to die in the Batman versus Superman movie. And I can see where the director's like what he's trying to do with this Superman. So if you like follow Superman from his solo movie, his solo title, where the father is sending the son to be the savior of the world, right? And then in the Batman versus Superman, you have this kind of dark element of man represented in Batman. And then Superman kind of dies in effort to save Batman and everyone else in Gotham and Metropolis. And then in this movie, that same director, Jack Snyder, continuing that along that thinking, wants to resurrect Superman in the ultimate salvation of the entire world, right?
Right.
So I could see what they were trying to do with that, but the premature death of Superman in Batman versus Superman was that we didn't really have an emotional connection to the character. So there wasn't a really emotional moment in his death. And in the same kind of way, when they're bringing him back in this movie, yeah, I can understand why Batman has a motivation to bring him back, but it still felt a little bit like, well, we have someone powerful and we want to bring in this idea of Darkseid, an even more and greater, more powerful villain. And they're like, well, if we don't bring Superman back now, they won't even stand a chance if Darkseid were to come, like the way Steppenwolf did.
Right.
And so I felt, in a way, there was this sort of forcing of the Superman character into the storyline, and it seemed, in a way, out of its element. In the same way, there was this group of humans in the place where Steppenwolf was taking over and transforming the Earth into, like, his own planet. You had these, like, humans that were there that were taking up about a minute or to 2 minutes worth of the time, but and I understand why they wanted to do that, right? Because they do that in Avengers. They want this human element, something to be at risk,
Right.
but that didn't need to be there at all. I'm not saying Superman didn't need to be there. He did it. He did need to be there, but it's just the way I felt like there was a. It just felt forced a little bit.
I see what you mean. And that relates to the Superman versus Batman movie mainly.
Right. The way they prematurely killed him off. They didn't need to kill him off at all. And they didn't have to have that whole storyline of bringing him back in the first place.
Okay, now talk for a minute about what you said about Batman and how this says something about Batman, about what he did. Remember what he did?
By
How
bringing him back?
He had planned out something.
Oh, yeah. So this is what I did like about when they did bring Superman back is that Batman... What really makes Batman different from all the other characters in the movie is that he is able to properly assess all the different things that can go wrong.
Batman has the master strategy, basically.
Right.
He has the backup plan, and the alternate backup plan, which
Right.
Superman never really needs because he's Superman.
Right. And of course, because Batman's a human and he's the most vulnerable, it makes sense for him to be thinking about all the things that could go wrong. And what I liked about Batman, he did this with Wonder Woman, is he not only knew, like, he knew that Superman had a weakness to kryptonite. And when he's talking about, like, we have a contingency, you're thinking, oh, okay, Batman is going to bring kryptonite in case Superman goes crazy, right?
Right.
But that's not what Batman does. Instead, Batman realizes, you know what? You know what's really different between me and Superman? Is Superman has a real humanity.
He has humanity.
And I've denied my humanity.
Yeah.
So what Batman does is he says, you know what? If we're really going to get in touch with Superman, if we're going to really anchor him back, is we're going to anchor him through his humanity, and that's Lois Lane. And I thought that was an excellent part of Batman's strategy.
It was very well done. It was amazing, and it was great that was a surprise for us too. And that goes back to our other conversation about the understanding, where Batman, we believe that Batman is capable of really understanding Wonder Woman, and this is one example of not understanding Wonder Woman, but him understanding Superman and what he needs to have in place in case everything goes wrong, which it does, and then how he brings Superman back to his humanity. And I really like that about Batman a lot.
Yeah. And so let's talk about, like, Aquaman. What do you think about the Aquaman character?
His eyes change colors when he gets in the water. When he's on land, it's like they're kind of cloudy,
murky looking.
Yeah. And then when he gets in the water for the first time, they're this sharp, intense blue, pure blue.
I like those little details like that.
Yeah, details like that. I like the actual character of Aquaman. He's a strong character.
He's intense. Yeah, I like that.
And the interesting thing about Aquaman is if you just have Aquaman and Batman and neither one of them have their costume, Aquaman looks like more of a man than Batman does.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to fighting, I get the feeling that Batman is more of a superhero than Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because the portrayal of Aquaman is he's really this sort of like brawler, and he doesn't think things out.
Yeah.
And there's this really cool moment where Wonder Woman is kind of like trolled Aquaman by putting the lasso of truth like on his ankle or something.
Yeah.
And so he starts like coming out with all this like emotional
things. Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, so put this in context of like alpha and beta males. So Aquaman would definitely have an alpha personality type, and the interesting and funny thing about Wonder Woman putting the lasso of truth around his ankle is that these kind of insecurities that he has that he probably wouldn't normally think
He
about.
would not, and he would not vocalize at all under
Yeah.
normal circumstances.
And he probably doesn't really like think about it. He's probably just assesses, right?
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, that's a bad move. I'm not gonna do that." It's just coming out, and it makes this kind of really funny moment in the movie.
Right, and he's having this emotional moment where he's giving this
All
the
these feelings
truth and all these insecurities, and then the way he's saying it, and then everybody just keeps staring at him, and then like the audience is like, "What's happening to Aquaman? Why is he
a chump.
coming out and being a different person? Why is he coming out of character?" And then all of a sudden he looks down, and then the lasso is there, and you're like, "Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense."
that was a good foil.
That
though.
was
Or-
a
is
good
foil the right word?
that was a
It's not the
good
right word.
joke. That was a good humor.
That was a good joke. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was completely unexpected.
Yeah. But I love the treatment of Aquaman. He looks really cool. He has a cool power set, very similar to the strength and agility of Wonder Woman. I would say they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, I think so.
And I just like the treatment of the character. It's a re-envisioning of him from like the Super Friends sort of asexual blonde.
Would you call him? Is he like the modern day version of the Triton?
What's the Triton? You mean like you mean the god of the sea, of the
Yeah.
ocean? I can't think of his name, man.
The
Poseidon. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah.
yeah.
No. He's
don't
not
think so?
he's not like the embodiment of Poseidon. But I think that he's the closest thing to it that is in that universe. I mean, he
Okay.
has the Triton, right?
Yeah.
And he's the king of Atlantis, so naturally you would think that is a Poseidon character.
Yeah.
But he's kind of gonna have the Thor complex.
He's not really a merman either.
Yeah, he's gonna have a Thor complex where he doesn't want to ascend to the throne and have the responsibility of the throne.
Right.
Yeah, I think if they could do an Aquaman movie, that's where it's gonna be about.
So what did you think about Flash?
Okay, so I didn't like what they did with the Flash, but what they did do with the Flash was very funny, and I like that element because he was very different compared to the other superheroes. But I did like this. The real good explanation for why Barry was the way he was one, he was young, and two, he was a neophyte to superhero-ness. So he even said, "I've never fought anybody in my whole
Right.
life. I've just kind of like pushed people out of the way."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good way to explain why he sucked so bad.
Right.
And in that way, he was this comedic relief, and I really appreciated that because that made him. The group needed that. The group needed to have someone to be that.
Yeah, they did need that.
Because the cyborg character, he was way too serious.
He was way serious. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be like, why so serious?
Yeah. Hey, buddy. Stop analyzing those
Well,
millions of files in your mind.
The thing about the cyborg being serious, though, he was the majority of him was machine anyway. So
Right.
it's like, how could a robot be? I mean, I guess you could have like an R2D2 robot.
Okay, so
or something.
I usually don't talk about like the actors' decisions with their characters, but I felt like that actor didn't make a good decision. He should have doubled down on this aspect of like, am I a human? I hate myself. I feel like a monster. I am a monster. But instead there was this moment where he's talking to his father and he's like, "It's funny, you would relate the monster to me, Daddy. Daddy, you thought I'm the monster, Daddy? I was talking about you, Daddy. You're the monster. You did this, Daddy." I think he should. I think he should have doubled down on that, right? But instead, he was just like very robotic. Like, I'm a cyborg. I'm playing a cyborg, so I must not have emotions. Kind of like your friend from Baltimore.
Not friend.
Okay.
So yeah, so the cyborg actor, he's too robotic.
Yeah, I just didn't like the decision
And he
made as the actor.
Like not too robotic, but like not like there's a real pain there that keeps on driving him.
Right, and the
It's kinda
actor
like-
didn't tap into that.
Yeah. So would you say this is similar to the thing I brought up about Loki in the Thor Ragnarok movie about how in the first Thor movie Loki had this intense emotional pain, and then in the third is has like subsided and we don't see a reason why. So like in this movie you see sort of a conflict that's brushed on
Right.
but never fully developed, and then 2 or 3 scenes later it's like that conflict has
It's
kind
gone.
of vanished.
Yeah, that's a weakness. That's a weakness in the movie. And I want to say, I feel like the actors have a responsibility to be like, hey, you know what? I know you're writing, I know you're directing, but give me something.
Right. To basically challenge the writing and the director and be
Yes.
like, I care about this character because I'm bringing this character to life, and I think this makes the character weak.
Right. And I think maybe that's part of, they're picking a young actor. I feel like he's an unknown. I don't know if
Yeah, I
what he
think
was in
so.
before this, but he probably was scared to like challenge the writers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's probably normal.
Yeah. So we touched on Cyborg, we touched on Flash, Wonder Woman, The Return of Superman, and Batman. Well, we didn't really talk about Batman, did we?
I want to talk about, and we may have said something about this before, but Superman and Wonder Woman were really the only two that realistically could have been together.
Right. Well, but you know what? I do want to say
Superman
something
and
about-
Lois Lane don't work together, and Batman and Wonder Woman don't work together.
Okay. I'll tell you what my number one problem with Lois Lane is, and I think most people might disagree with me because it's very superficial, but she's a blue-eyed redhead,
Redhead.
and I know this is really nitpicky, but I feel like Lois Lane is such a established character that her hair is an identifying feature. It's kind of like if you had Mary Jane from Peter Parker in the Spider-Man movie and you made her a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person, or brown-eyed brunette. I mean, I know these kinds of things are superficial and shouldn't matter, but I feel like that's part of her costume.
Right.
It's like taking away Superman's underwear. It's not right.
Oh, it's not right.
It's not right. You're changing a fundamental identifying characteristic.
Okay,
But-
so what do you think about what I said about Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman and Lois?
Okay, so this is what I think. I think Lois Lane is bad for Superman, and not because she's a human necessarily, but because, well, no,
It's because she's a human.
yeah, because she's a human.
She's a human. She
Because-
can't function on a level that Superman needs her to function
right,
on.
and he's always going to be restrained with her.
Yeah,
Like he could never fully be himself with her.
right.
And I know he loves her, but
And
now,
he's going to have this problem. Superman is going to remain young, and that's what I get. He's going to remain the same age, immortal, and Lois Lane is going to grow old, and Wonder Woman is going to remain the same age, and Batman is going to grow old. Do you agree?
I agree with that.
You
yeah.
agree with that?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's a problem. Like Superman and Wonder Woman should be together. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then they wouldn't have this. They could be together, and then they wouldn't have this emotional trauma of all these people dying and dying and dying over and over and over again. The 100-year problem that Wonder Woman has from the first movie to this movie. And also Wonder Woman and Superman are able to act together as a team because they have, similar power sets. Because of that, Superman has an understanding of Wonder Woman that even Batman doesn't have. And so he can be her masculine energy.
Right.
Even that masculine energy that Batman isn't capable of being.
So what Johnny's saying is that with Wonder Woman, he won't ever have to hold back.
That's right. So that
Full
needs
power.
that needs to change.
Full power.
Yeah.
That's what Johnny's saying. Ladies, full power. Okay, so overall, what was your feeling on the Justice League movie?
Overall, I liked the movie.
Scale of 1 to 10. We've never done this before, man.
Scale of 1 to 10.
5 being average, 0 being garbage, 10
I'd probably
being
say
perfection.
6.
6?
Yeah, 6.
A 6. Yeah, I say 6. It was a really fun movie to watch. I think you could take your kids to it, even young kids. There's like very slight profanity, like maybe an shit in
Minimal.
there,
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 maybe. There was no sexual innuendos. Was there?
Well, like maybe just 1, but not. It wasn't anything
Yeah. So
really.
I think it was appropriate for kids. It was a great action movie. I think you have to be able to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, that's kind of the weak point of the movie is suspending your disbelief, and it has to do with
CGI.
It has to do with CGI, and it has to do with the same thing that all the other superhero movies come down to is a bunch of superheroes fighting a bunch of CGI villains. And it's like,
And
it
then-
all comes down to this in the end. And it's like, I wish we could have something more than that.
Right. So this is where like Captain America, Civil War did well, was they went from this huge fight scene and they consolidated to 3 people at the end.
Right.
And that's what needs to happen is they need to find a way to anchor Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman into something personal where there feels like there's some real danger and stakes at the end.
Right.
Because, you get Superman at the end and it's just like, boom, he's overpowering Steppenwolf like nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, man. Aquawoman and Aquawoman. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, like, they were kind of staving off Superman a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
But still showing how powerful he is. But man, they were really having a hard time with Steppenwolf. And then
They
all of
were.
a sudden,
Superman.
here comes
is just
Superman.
like,
Yeah. So,
I mean, it seems like it's always about saving the world, saving the galaxy, saving the universe, and all these characters fighting these
This is what-
CGI monsters.
yeah.
And it's just like, I want to see something more than that.
This is what would have been good. Instead of if Steppenwolf would have had to come and then the Amazonian island was at stake and the queen was gonna, her life was at stake or possibly dying.
Yeah.
They could have just made the movie of the heroes racing to save as many Amazons as possible, and keeping the Amazons from being getting wiped out. Then they could have still had all the fighting and the war and all of that, but still had more personal stakes, at least for one of the characters, right? Wonder Woman, which I think naturally the audience would want to root for her, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, that was just one idea, man.
Yeah. So overall, 6. I liked the humor in it. I liked the elements of Batman and Wonder Woman working together, and Superman, all 3 of those working together. And it was stronger than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's a great movie. You guys should definitely go check it out. And if you want to get into deeper discussions, we have discussions going over positive masculinity. If you need definitions on like alpha, right?
Yeah, we have that.
Okay. Probably in the future we'll be talking about hypergamy,
Right.
alpha widows. What else?
We are going to talk about the dual strategies.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Okay, so
And
yeah,
we're going to talk about the wall.
could talk about the wall. That's gonna be
Yeah.
controversial, man.
We got some good, interesting, controversial.
Topics coming up.
We got some good controversial topics to cover in these Talk Tactic videos. I'm out.